and see if you can get some sense of what that instrument is doing in the ensemble. Okay? If you're a drummer, it's easy. He's hitting things. That's what drummers do. Okay, and we've decided, just to be different this year, that we'd like to play Bourbon Street Parade. No. There is a reason for this. It's a simple song. It's really easy. It's harmonically simple, melodically simple, rhythmically simple. It'll be complex the way Ed plays it, but don't pay attention to that. Okay, are you ready? In the key of? Eighth. Eighth. So listen to your instrument, if you can. Gosh, that was fun.
Thank you.
All right, we've got feedback, we've got piano failure, we've got all those good things you want early in the morning to distract you from the actual music. Which you'll notice, they were not distracted. They did what they had to do.
Yeah.
Aren't they something? Wow. How are we doing? Oh, Curtis Bringle will now repair the cable before your eyes.
Duct tape.
All right. Now, did anybody notice what the trumpet was doing?
Passing out.
Musically.
Yeah.
Yes, Ken. The melody. Was he always playing the melody?
No.
No. What was he doing other than the melody? Improvising, yeah. He's playing what we call the lead. It's not necessarily the exact melody of the song. He embellishes the melody somewhat, or even changes it at times during the song. but at all times what he's playing is melodic, and it's the lead voice around which the rest of the ensemble is focused. So, Rusty, do you want to come and repeat what I just said?
I will add to it just a little bit. And that is, when you're playing lead in a traditional jazz band, there's a very specific range the trumpet usually plays in. This is not a high note gig by any stretch.
Especially for him.
Yeah. And this time of day especially too. This is really an alto voice in the band. It is not the soprano voice. You want to stay out of the range of the soprano voice, which is the clarinet. The clarinet lives above you, and the trombone and the tenor live below you. So you want to stay in the range of about, I'd say, a sixth when you're playing the melody, 2 octaves at the most. Anything beyond that, you're going to be running into them, actually playing whole steps away, sometimes half steps away. So it's really important that you play lead within the framework of the melody of about a sixth, maybe 2 octaves at the most.
Thank you, Russell. Okay. Another thing that was not mentioned is that you want to leave some room for the other instruments. You're playing melodic phrases. When you get to the end of the phrase, don't keep playing. Don't fill up the space. That's the role of some of the other instruments. So like on this song, Rusty, come back here, please. Just play the melody for me. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's important. I have played trombone in Dixieland bands with trumpet players who will remain nameless, although their initials are F.O. And they know who I'm talking about. Who filled up all of the space, all of the time, played all of the parts, drove me crazy. But I love him. Anyway, you don't want to do that. If you're a trumpet player, play the melody, state the lead, do those things that Rusty described, and leave some room for other people. Now, you said that last year you demonstrated each individual player without anything else, or with rhythm section? Rhythm section. Okay, so do you want to do that now, or do you want to wait and do it as a recap? We'll do it as a recap. Let's have the clarinet step forward. Here's the lovely and talented and independently wealthy Anita Thomas. Soon to be. Tell us what the clarinet is doing in the ensemble.
First of all, you do a hand scrub. Okay, that's right. Well, the clarinet, as Rusty pointed out, is the soprano voice of the ensemble, and your job is to noodle and play. Oftentimes you might have heard I was playing a harmony of the melody with Rusty, so I had to listen intently to the way he was phrasing the melody and try and pick a nice harmony above or below the notes that he was playing. And then I would often depart from that and know the chord changes to the song, so I'm able to pick the sort of notes that we Who's doing? Westy's going to start a campfire over there. And I sort of noodle around and arpeggiate with the clarinet, or play some little phrases and scales.
Tell him the real stuff.
Okay. The real truth is I just try and bug Terry Myers as much as possible. No, it's really important, that particularly in a 4-piece front line, you heard Rusty playing the melody and leaving these gaps, and that's sort of essentially where 3 of us fill in. Now, that's not a lot of space for 3 people, so you want to be very aware of what the trombone and the tenor is playing. You're sort of aware immediately, because you're listening to the melody, where those gaps are, but then you don't want to be stomping over everyone else, and again, leaving a lot of space. And you can do that not necessarily by just stopping playing, but holding a long note, or listening to their phrase and then taking off the end of their phrase where they play a long note or slow down. You can take off. It's very important to play really good time. Rhythm is ultimately important. It's not just the job of the rhythm section. So we're all, as you heard Rusty playing, even though he's on his own, you can tell exactly where the beat is of the song, and that would be the same for anyone in the front line. You know exactly where the chords are changing and how the song is progressing forward harmonically. And also, I tend to just try and keep out of the range of the trumpet. I try and stay above. Sometimes you'll hear me go below, but then again, I'm just trying to keep out of the range of everyone. And that's about it. Thank you.
Now, let's do this. Let's have Rusty and Anita play. Where'd Rusty go? Good grief. He's up taking pictures. But I want to recap individually later, but for the moment, I'd like to hear you both play together. So Anita's saying the clarinet's role is to harmonize with the trumpet, which means that you're going to have either an instinctive sense of what harmony notes to choose, or you're going to have knowledge that helps you pick notes intellectually. Let's play together. With the rhythm section. And let's have Rusty, you play the first 8 bars by yourself, and then she'll join in. Okay? 1, 2, 1. Melody. Space. Isn't that beautiful? I wept. All right, so that's what the trumpet and the clarinet are doing. Normally, most of the time, this music is 3 voices. The third one will be the trombone. And here comes Greg Barlotta, and he's going to tell you what the trombone is doing.
All right, trombones. I know I kind of talked about this last night at the auditions, but I like to break it down into 3 different jobs that I like to do in this ensemble. And the first one is I can play similar to the bass player, so I can play a lot of roots and fifths. That's good if you don't really know the song yet very well, because you can listen to what the tuba player is playing and double him. And in that case, we actually played a couple of the same lines at the same place.
Exactly the same.
And that happens sometimes, and that's okay, because if you're playing the same notes, that's better than playing off by a half step in some cases. So I can act as a tuba player and double the bass, but I'm an octave above him, so it fills out that part of the section very well, the harmony, or the chords. The second thing I like to do is the trombone can also fill in the spaces between the melody. And the way I do that is I have to know the melody in order to fill in the spaces, so I know where the spaces are. And that's important for everyone to know the melody, obviously, in the song, in the group. So I can, if there's a gap, I can play what we call walk-ups or walk-downs into the next chord, and we'll get into that in private lessons and such, and even in the front line sectionals. And thirdly, I can also harmonize with the melody and pick a note that the clarinet player is not playing in the chord. So we end up playing basically 3-part harmony in some cases over the melody. So those are the 3 basic things that I like to do as a trombone player in this band. And I can go in between and do any of them at any time, which makes it a lot more fun for me. So that's
the point, isn't it?
That's the point, yes. Fun.
Fun for Greg. A perfect summation of the role of the trombone. I couldn't have said it better. Well, maybe. Okay, to reiterate 3 things. A pseudo bass line. It occurred to me while he was saying that, since the trombone and tuba are an octave apart, it's kind of like the left hand of the piano in octaves. So that's a perfectly legitimate thing to be doing. Isn't that brilliant? Huh? Who'd have thunk it? Wow. Stop it right now. No. No, you don't need a piano player. Yeah, get out of here. Okay, so the pseudo trombone thing, the harmony, you can also join in and play harmony to the melody or playing in between the phrases, finding your way to the next chord, either going up to it or down to it. Those are all things that you want to do if you play the trombone. And so let's have the trumpet, the trombone, and the clarinet. We'll let the trumpet play 4 bars, then the clarinet will join, then the trombone will join. And we'll hear what they're doing in relation to each other. And we're ready to go. That's good, huh? Yeah. Nothing to it. It's easy. Anyone can do it. I'd like to comment that these are all virtuoso musicians, but they're not displaying that virtuosity during the ensemble. They save that for their solos. During the ensemble, they're actually trying to make it sound like somebody arranged the song. That's essentially what's happening here. You're improvising an arrangement. And they do that brilliantly. I thought that sounded great. Everybody's playing simply, directly, and doing what sounds good as an arrangement. Now, here comes the difficult part. Somebody wake up the sax player. There's Terry Myers with his impression of Paul Gonsalves. Oh, you want to be Jimmy Hamilton? Okay. All right. There's a famous video, I haven't seen it in a long time, of Paul Gonsalves sound asleep with the Ellington Band. And a drum solo, and he's got the sax in his mouth, but he's gone. That's the best way to handle this fourth part, really. All right, Terry Myers is going to explain the complexity of adding that fourth voice to the Dixieland Ensemble.
And it is indeed complex, and it's so complex it's really simple. And in that less is better. When you're playing tenor in a four-horn front, you can really clutter things up very easily. And one of the things that the first thing you have to fight as a tenor player, you probably are also a clarinet player. So you have these natural inclinations to play these things that you've played on clarinet if you were the clarinet player in a 3-horn front line. So you have to scratch that from your consciousness immediately and say, I am not the clarinet player. I am not going to play those same kind of harmony notes that I would play if I had a clarinet here. So where am I going to fit in? I don't want to step on the trombone because he's doing these nice leading passages. But that's the same place where I need to be playing. So although I'm listening to the trumpet and the clarinet, I'm really listening intently to the trombone player. And as a general rule, like Greg said, when he's filling, he'll do a lot of roots and fifths. So those are notes that I'm basically staying away from. A lot of thirds, sevenths, sixths. And I'll try to fill those holes with those combinations. And but I always consider it to be a reactive thing, in that I'm reacting to what I hear the other 3 players do, and without that, it just becomes a cacophonous noise. If I just go ahead and play through everything, it really messes up the entire front line. So my idea is to stay back, and then go buy some records with Bud Freeman and Eddie Miller, and listen to the way they played tenor in a front line. And they were the virtuosos of that. They did it perfectly. And if you are going to be in that kind of a situation, I really encourage you to listen to them. But that's it.
Thank you, Terry Myers. Failing that, just listen to Terry Myers, because he's as good at it as those other guys were. Okay, let's get that front line out here now. We got all four of them. Rusty put his camera down. He's getting good. All right, here we go. Ooh, the sun came out. In isolation, the trumpet will start, clarinet will join, trombone will join, and finally the tenor sax. Remember, the trumpet's playing the lead. The clarinet is harmonizing, playing some noodly bits in between. The trombone is outlining the chords, or playing some harmony, or pseudo tuba. And then the saxophone is doing those mysterious things that fit with the rest of them. Ready?
Yeah, yeah. And that is the difficult one. And the fourth one, and the front line is difficult.
Was that brilliant? Amazing to me. All right, are there any questions to this point? Yes, Joanne.
Am I correct? Did Rusty say, when Rusty was talking, did he say he tried to play a sixth or at most 2 octaves? I didn't understand. Did that mean a sixth below the clarinet's melody?
No, he means the entire range.
Sixth?
Yeah.
Only a sixth or 2 octaves?
Well, it's it left some room for error. A sixth. Remember that, trumpet players. Minimum, and then 2 octaves at the most.
Okay. So if you're looking at a piano keyboard, what are the bottom and the top of the notes you should be playing?
Yeah.
Middle C, up a sixth or 2 octaves?
It depends on the melody and the key of the song.
Oh yeah.
So that was in A flat.
Yeah. So at minimum, my melody is between concert E flat and concert C. Da 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 da. And then at maximum, my melody would be, I would say, concert C. Well, in this tune, I wouldn't go 2 octaves. C to yeah, maybe C to A flat at the most. A flat on top of the staff.
Like an octave and a fifth.
Yeah, it just depends. Every song is different. Every ensemble is different. It's a judgment call every time.
And what you're trying to avoid are the extremes. You want to stay pretty much within the range of the melody the way it's written.
Yeah.
You don't want to go too much higher or lower than that, because if you do, you're stepping on somebody's toes.
The only way it would be a 2 octave stretch is if you had a song that the bottom notes were actually underneath the staff, so that your top note would be a G on the staff, up to G and A flat on the staff. That's a 2 octave song.
Does that make sense? Other questions? Ken?
You said that the trumpet lives in the middle, with the clarinet being on top and the trombone and saxophone on the bottom. How are they not going to pick you yet?
What was the question?
Because the drummer is in charge.
Okay. So far, we haven't had a question from a horn player. Sir?
Jerry was talking about tenor sax.
What about alto sax? That's a good question. What about alto sax? Is there any reason for an alto sax?
It would be the same role, but what you would have to do if you're playing alto sax is you would really want to stay in the lower register of the horn. Okay? Because you're a fourth below where you're a fifth below where the tenor is, or above, I should say. So since your horn naturally sounds higher, stay out of, say, don't go above the staff. when you're playing, say in the staff and below. And then you can more emulate the tenor sound. The first band I was ever in was a band that played those old Dixieland arrangements for four horns. And they were written for trumpet, clarinet, trombone, and tenor sax. And I had an alto sax. So I had to transpose all those down a fourth so that it would sound the same as it did with the tenor. And it does. So just remember just to stay in the lower register with the alto and you'll fit that ensemble just fine.
The natural range of the alto and the sound of the alto is close to trumpet. So you have to be really careful if you're playing alto. With the tenor, you're staying away from the trombone. With the alto, you got to watch out for the trumpet because your sound is so similar. Okay? Is that it? Sure.
I really like the low registers on the clarinet, Pete Fountain and so forth.
Yeah?
How do you do that?
The lower range of the clarinet, I would say, well, I'll let Anita say.
A lot of the time when you're playing low range on the clarinet in a front line, it won't be heard, plus you'll be in the range of the tenor and the trombone now. So you're really just muddying up the bottom end of that part. But I go there too. But it's more of a solo thing. That's when you can use that bottom range, is when you get a chance to shine. And, you know, and that, if that's the sound that you like, take that for your solo and use that bottom range. But really, it sounds a bit odd if there's that top voice missing completely in the front line for an entire song. I mean, I use the whole range of my instrument, and I'm sure Terry does too when he's playing the clarinet. But it's like Rusty said, it's a judgment call every time. You don't want to go there if everyone's down there. It's, you know, or you know, you just have to choose the right moments to go there. It could be an effect thing. Sometimes I just go down there because it's rhythmic and verbally, and it just adds to an effect. But it's not just strong low notes in the bottom of the clarinet where everyone else is.
I need a burbles occasionally. Burbles and noodles. Yeah. Bright, shiny beads. Yes, sir.
About balancing the front line, I've played with a lot of players that just play loud all the time.
Yeah.
And you know, how do you get them to balance?
I shoot them. Hire somebody who doesn't do that. Yeah, there's. It occurred to me that we've skirted this issue, but it's enormous. Which is, you need to really spend time listening to great players who play this music and hear what they're doing, because all of the clues are there for you. For most of us, I would I think safely say that we've all heard pretty much all the classic recordings in the Dixieland genre. Yeah, heads are bobbing. And when you play a song, you've sort of got that script in the back of your mind about how Eddie Condon's band played this tune, or especially Eddie Condon. It's Eddie Condon. Just listen to Eddie Condon. Just kidding. Let's do that. What? A question, sir?
Yeah, like when we're practicing inside, rehearsing for a tune, and then we come out here and get the concert. How should we think about the balance and transition from inside to outside?
Rich, it's always about listening to what's happening and being appropriate. If you if you're playing in an echo chamber like Site 7, of course you're going to play more quietly. When you get out here, you can actually open up and blow. You'll have a lot of control over that in a band because you're the trumpet player. Trumpet player's playing quietly. Everyone else is going to have to. So you know what's appropriate, so you play at an appropriate volume level, and the others will fall in. I think that's... Yeah, heads are bobbing again. Okay, so there will be more time for questions when we get to the rhythm section and frontline sectionals. But let's do this now. Let's do the recap. Ready? Okay. Rhythm section will accompany. You want to do it with no rhythm section? There are many different ways to do what we're doing. If we do it without the rhythm section at all, just the horns, let's have let's do that. Rusty will play maybe 4 bars, whatever, and then you come in. And then Greg, who's right over here, staying out of the sun, he's in my shadow. I'd say get Westy's shadow. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 1. Brilliant. What's really fun is that they're actually doing what they said. I'm so impressed. Let's move on to the rhythm section before it gets too hot. Yeah. All right, let's start with the piano. The piano. Curtis Bringle explains the piano.
These chords have a 2-conductor wire. And when they short out, sometimes it's just absolutely non-existent, which actually kind of segues into Anita's comment. It's like, well, what's the use of the piano? I mean, we have bass going on, and we have banjo going on, and we have all this other melody and harmony going on. So, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with your left hand? Well, Westy chose to play the 5 chord, starting with the 5th of that chord. So if we're in the key of A flat, he chose to start his bass line on a B flat and then hit the E flat as opposed to the other way around. So you got to really be aware of that. So because you don't want to be muddying this stuff up. Again, you just have to leave space. You just have to leave more space. Now, because I'm a member of the rhythm section, there's a banjo going on too, and she's playing, 2s and 4s, and so you got to kind of watch out with that. Bop, 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 bop. And also about where the range of all this is. You don't want to be soloing all over the clarinet or the tenor or getting in the way of the trombone. But you can double bass lines, but you have to really listen to what the bass player is doing to find out. And there are typical lines that approach the 1 chord. Bump, 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 but those kinds of things that you can hear Westy doing. So, yeah, go ahead and double it. And then, of course, when it comes to the solo, then things change. But you really need to leave a lot of space because gumming up the whole thing is not something that you really want to do. It just really kind of sounds like a mess. So my role really is to try to actually kind of stay out of the way. This music could go on without me. But since I'm a rhythm instrument, that's my job, to play rhythm. That's really what it's about. And try to make it sit in a pocket and groove as really as hard as you can. Try to get your time together so that bot is really placed on 2 and 4. Okay, because then you may have a conflict with the drums, right? These clashing rhythms. So it's just something to be aware of.
Okay. The pianist. This is going to vary. You could be in a band with no banjo, and that changes what you're doing.
That changes what you do, yes.
So for the piano, I think it's true for every instrument in the band that your number 1 chore is to play good time, play the right changes, and try to make it swing. Try to make something happen. There are a variety of ways. Pianists have a lot of variety of choices. Sometimes you'll hear a band like, who's heard the High Sierra band? High Sierra. That's high energy, full on, lots of piano all the time in that band. Okay. That's an approach that some people take. It's it's stride piano and in your face. And it has a lot to do with the energy of that band. Banjo's doing the same thing. That's one of the reasons that band is so effective and people enjoy it so much. Really strong time. But I agree completely with what Curtis said. You want to stay out of the way. Yeah, and Katie's going to have the same problem, but just from a different standpoint. And she's going to tell you about it right now.
I am a problem. Why am I a problem? So the job of the banjo and guitar is to be the heartbeat of the band. We are the band metronome. And more than anything else, I want everybody in here to work with and love your metronome by the end of this camp. You're all going to work with me in the metronome, and because we just have to keep that pulse going, that boom, 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 1, 2, 3, 4. If you can't count to 4, you can play banjo or guitar in the band. You know, the chords and all that stuff. I don't care if you play the right chords, as long as you got good time. Oh, and the piano player might too. But so that's the main thing, that we just keep that pulse and that drive going. So we're going to work a lot on that. And the other thing is, since we're a chordal instrument, sometimes you play with a front line that doesn't really have a clue. So, well, I'm just saying, not these guys. These guys are great. But we can do voice leading and things to like help them find the chords. Like if somebody doesn't know a tune, we can teach it to them on the bandstand because of how we're doing voice leading and leading the chords. We kind of like, come on this way, come on this way. And we can do that. So we'll talk about that a lot too in our sessions about voice leading and how you kind of show the rest of the band how it's done. So we're going to show them how it's done.
The banjo shows you how it's done. I'll buy that. My other instrument. Okay. I think the salient point is strong time.
Yes.
That's hugely important. I could go on about that. Maybe I'll come by the banjo session and talk about that because it's something that's important to me and that I've actually paid attention to over the years. Okay, so let's have the piano play a little bit of Bourbon Street Parade, and then the banjo will join in, and we'll see how those two things fit together. There will be no melody. They're only going to be playing their part as though a melody were going on. Ready?
Conductor wire.
There it is, more or less. Curtis will now repair the piano again. Okay, so they're playing time. They're not doing a lot melodically. Katie was leading things from one chord to the next, but not a lot of melody happening in her playing. And also, simplicity with the right hand, not a lot of fancy stuff. I remember when I first started playing the banjo, I thought if I wasn't busy doing something, people would think I couldn't play. And they were right. Simple is better. Simple is better. Even on the banjo, we want to think Freddie Green. Simple. Time. Okay. The tuba. A much maligned musical instrument. Nobody plays the tuba anymore.
Probably number one job for the tuba player. Listen. Listen. I said listen. Listen. Number two job. Time. It's not just a watch anymore. Okay. You have to, first of all, listen. And it's not play. Play's not the first job. Listen is the first job. Time. Without time, we've got nothing. Listen. Time. Then, of course, now you're going to be playing the roots, the fives of the chords in this type of a tune. You can use your ones and your fives as a bass line. And depending on the circumstance, you can use them in reverse order. They work just fine. All right? time, listen, okay? You have little run-ups or run-downs that help as a little turn signal. We're going here. That piano's already mentioned that, so that's pretty much the job right there. It gets to a solo, then you cut it loose. Other than that, your job is very clear.
Thank you very much. The concise Rusty Wessenhofer. Play the bass line, the bass part, 1 and 5. Keep the time. Listen to what's going on. Something that has not been brought up yet, but that I recall from playing in rhythm sections, is that certain songs get played in different ways by different bands in different parts of the country, maybe a little different chord structure. The only way you're going to know what's happening with that is by listening. Very often, the bass player or the tuba player will be determining what chords are going to be played. Instead of playing a 5 chord to a 1 chord, then they play 2, 5, 1. You want to listen for that. So listening, huge, very huge. And being adamant about what you think it ought to be is not necessarily the best choice. I've been in bands that did that, where the piano and the bass didn't agree on the changes to a tune. It gets very interesting and annoying. You don't want to do that. You want unanimity of purpose. Yeah, be a good name for a band. All right. All right, we've saved the most primitive musical instrument for last. I mean that in a good way. Yes. Probably the first musical instrument after the human voice was hitting something, maybe another human. I don't know. With a stick, in fact. And so here to tell you all about the drums in 30 seconds is Ed Metz.
It's so easy, even a caveman can do it. Drums, your job is to carry the whole band on your shoulders, just like the weight of the world, making everyone sound as good as they possibly can, which in this case is a really difficult job. No, our job is to play time, and yeah, that's kind of it. You're in a support role. Remember, rhythm section is a support role until the solos come along and everybody gets their chance. But we want to make it sound like a band, right? And drummers, we talked about 2-beat, 4-beat, and 2-beat and 4-beat, and 4-beat and 2-beat. No. You guys know, come on, it's time, right? And when you get soft, it doesn't mean that the time gets slower. And when you get loud, it doesn't mean that the time gets faster. Okay, time is a continuum. Continues. Always. Never slowing or speeding. Thank you.
Okay, time is the name of the game. It's not.
I go to rehab tomorrow.
Finally. It's about time. Time is everybody's job. Drummers, since they're not playing melody, they're not playing harmony, they're not playing chords, they really need to pay attention to the time. Again, simplicity is an issue. Simpler is better. It's, pardon me. It's oh, not again.
How you feeling, Bill?
You guys are early. It's next week. What we were talking about with the banjo. Banjo is a percussive kind of instrument. And like the drums, the simpler you make it, the harder you can make it swing. Don't think that you have to be doing something complicated so that people think you're really cool. You have to play simply. You can get your solo, and there are things that you can do. And if you're as competent as Ed Metz, oh, there isn't anybody as competent as Ed Metz, so forget that. I didn't even bring it up. Some drummers are capable of embellishing what's happening, doing more than just playing simple time, playing fills between phrases. That's a place where you really have to beware. because you can junk it up. You don't want to do that. Cleanliness is next to drumliness. Ready? Oh, you have more to say, don't you? Oh, the world's greatest drummer, Ed Metz Jr. Okay, rhythm section. Get up here. Piano will start, banjo will join, then the tuba, then the drums. Just like we did with the front line. And as we accumulate them, listen to what they're doing. And Mr. Curtis Brengle will begin. Any questions?
Four on the bass drum.
Joey.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, mainly this would be a 2-beat. Yeah, this is a 2-beat. Yeah. And mostly.
Yeah, right after I answer this phone call. Hello?
2-beat unless you want to drive the last
Yes,
chord.
sweetheart.
Change to 4.
Loaf of bread.
If you do it light.
The power cable for the printer. Okay. It's probably in the computer bag back in our room. I'm on stage as we speak. Everyone says hi. I'll get to it in just a minute. Love you too. The difference between 2 and 4. Ed will demonstrate. Play in 2 and then play in 4.
We're in 4/4 time. Okay. 2-beat. It's really based on the bass drum and what the tuba is playing, which would be beats 1 and 3. Okay. 2 bass notes to a measure. Okay, 4-beat would be 4 bass notes to a measure, like in a swing context. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2-beat. Okay, everybody understand it?
Is that clear? Yeah.
Exactly what you said.
The other rhythm is as to what you're supposed to.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. I can generalize. The simpler the rhythm is, and it's not necessarily 2/4 as opposed to 4/4, but the simpler you make your rhythmic phrasing, the harder you can make it swing. Good example, I brought this up to somebody just recently. There's a recording of Harry Sweets Edison with Art Tatum, with one of the group things. Buddy Rich is on drums and a red calendar. And Pete Fountain does this a lot too. Sometimes just playing quarter notes, you can lift the rhythmic intensity. It's not about playing a lot of fancy stuff. Sometimes Louis Armstrong is probably the master. Simple rhythmic concepts, but really make the band swing. This is getting into the area I mentioned earlier about listening to these people play. If you listen to something and you respond to it, you're really excited by it, analyze what's happening. And I would imagine that when the rhythmic intensity grows, you're hearing more simplicity from whoever's playing. Ed has something to say.
Questioning her, the quote, the simpler it is, the harder it swings, is that? Oh, okay. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you're confused with the word simpler and harder, as like something like harder meaning difficult? Okay, all right. Yeah, because the swing, yeah, the better you can make it swing. Okay, all right, just making sure.
This is particularly true on the drums, but it's true for every instrument. When you hear a band really swinging hard, the drummer's not soloing through it. I heard Curtis mention groove, pocket. Those are code words for swinging. And it's about the pattern of what's happening. The repetition of a pattern builds intensity. If it's a good pattern.
About the quarter note.
It's about the quarter notes, exactly. That's why you want to listen to, for that. Sweets Edison, fabulous. Louis, fabulous. Pete Fountain does that. His time is amazing.
Play the same note.
That's right.
Quarter note for 4 bars.
Yeah.
And it would be swinging harder than anything in the whole record.
Yep. Okay, any other questions?
But you got to put the note in the right place.
Sir.
Real basic one. On the piano on 4/4 times, piano's basically hitting on 1 and 3.
Well, on 4/4 time, Curtis, what would you say your role is when you're playing in 4?
If I were going to do this, especially in this situation, I just might plank out, you know, Westy's already got this bass line that he's playing. I don't really want to get in the way down there. I have no way to second guess about what he's going to play unless we get together and say, okay, well, these are the notes that we're going to play. I'm just going to let him play, you know. But I need to keep my left hand out of it. You know, so what is my left hand going to do exactly? Well, I'm going to move up in the register of the instrument, first of all, so that I don't occupy that bass space, so the mud doesn't happen. I mean, when you start getting down into thirds below, an octave below middle C is voicing, it's going to kind of turn into kind of muck. So I might just do this, and I'll just, you know, so this is something typical that kind of came up. It might be a Freddie Green kind of thing, but Earl Father Hines kind of came up with this because he was wondering the same thing. Well, in 4/4 time, in 4, what am I going to do? So he just might do this, and I'm going to play. It's going to sound like an F minor chord, but with a root, it's going to sound like an A flat 6. Okay. Hear my hand? I'm keeping 4 at the time here. Using the voice leading, right? So I'm not moving my left hand from one chord to the next, one chord over here and over there. So I'm trying to keep these chords in the same kind of range in my left hand, okay?
He's essentially playing guitar on the piano.
Yeah.
That's what that is. Ken.
What about the left hand for a 2-beat deal? Would it just be that 1, 2, 3?
Well, then I would change it, you know.
Okay. Yeah, question? No. All right, I think that's pretty much what everybody does, and we've gone over a little bit in our time, which is what we usually do. So we're ready to go to the front line and rhythm section. Is that what's next on your schedule? What's it say, Gregory? What time? 9:40. Hey, we're pretty close, aren't we? Gosh, if it hadn't been for that phone call from my wife, we'd have made it. I'm going to tell her. Okay, so you can continue this discussion in a more detailed fashion at the frontline and rhythm section meetings. It'll be the same stuff that we just got done talking about, but you'll have a more isolated context in which to work. Okay? Fabulous. What a great job you guys did. Thank you so much. Amazing. These are your teachers. Okay, takes